Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Forward Corporation and T.R. McTaggart, Angler Quest Boats, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Kind of. That's all right, Charlie. That was my fault. Welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. And I was doing, in fact, I still am as I'm recording this, a Facebook Live here in the Outdoor Magazine studio, which is something we do every week before I record the radio show. And I carried my comments from the Facebook Live a little bit into the radio show. So I do. That's my fault, Charlie. I was going to say I apologize. I don't. But Charlie Root, who is here in the studio with me, that was not his fault. That was mine. How are you, my friends? How are you holding up? I hope everything is fine in your world. I hope you're still healthy. I hope your family's healthy. And more to the point, I hope you've had a chance to get outdoors and take advantage of whatever opportunities are in your neck of the woods. This weekend, by the time you hear this radio show, walleye season will be open in the lower peninsula. Trout season opens the last Saturday in April. Now, I realize we're dealing with some interesting situations, especially for walleye season, because as of now, right now when we're in the studio on Wednesday, you still cannot take a motorized boat, and that includes electric trolling motors, out on the water. And in certain parts of our state, they are certainly enforcing that. Now, when you get to the North Country, the enforcement does seem to wane a little bit, as it probably should. So the walleye, and as I've been saying for the last several weeks, conditions, regulations, mandates, edicts, orders, executive orders could change by Saturday. And maybe it will, but I doubt it. So I hope that you get a chance to get out and take advantage of that. I hope you have had a chance to get out and do some turkey hunting. I have. I've only been in the woods 2 days. Keep in mind, we're here in the studio on Wednesday, as always. I was out for the Saturday opener. Sunday, I took off for church and family. And Monday, I was back in the woods. Tuesday, I was in the office getting ready for the radio show. And Wednesday, I'm here in the studio. So I've only been in the woods 2 days. But it was 2 full days, from sunrise till like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I have not shot a bird yet with my recurve. I have not seen a gobbler yet. I've seen a few hens, but that's it. I'm on a piece of property. My buddy Scott has graciously invited me out to hunt his property, and there are a lot of birds there, so I'm not even remotely worried. The opportunity will present itself. Now, whether I will be able to make it happen with my recurve, well, that's going to be up to me. An interesting observation, though. This year, they moved the opener of turkey season to Saturday. I understand why they did that. MUCC was pushing this because they wanted to increase the opportunities to get people in the woods, and I'm all in favor of that. Obviously, anything we can do to get more people in the woods, the better. On the other hand, DNR has said all along, when asked, why don't we go to a 2-bird limit for the springtime season, they have said, well, we want to maintain a quality hunt. They said our turkey hunters are telling us through the surveys that they want the opener of turkey season to be something different than the opening day of gun season. So I get that as well. My experience Saturday morning was, because it was a Saturday opener and because a lot of people are off work right now, so they're out in the turkey woods, I heard more shots last Saturday morning for the turkey opener than I have for the opening day of gun season since I was a kid. So there were a lot of people out taking advantage of that opportunity, and that's wonderful. But I almost wonder if all that shooting has kind of squirreled the birds up on the property that I was hunting, at least for a few days. Now, by the time I get back out there tomorrow morning, I expect things will have calmed down. So from a purely selfish perspective, I'm not a big fan of the Saturday opener, but I've been saying that all along from a purely selfish perspective. But from the overall impact it's having on turkey hunting, hey, every opportunity we have to get people out there, the better. Interesting on turkey season this year, because you're encouraged not to drive a long distance to your turkey hunting spot, a lot of people went out and bought ZZ, Hunt ZZ, which is Southern Michigan private land. 50,000 ZZ tags are put out each spring, and they have never sold out until this year. This year, ZZ is now sold out because more people are hunting closer to home, which is what the powers that be want us to do. But it makes it tough for people who couldn't get ZZ, who still have a tag for up north. They say, I can't get it. Well, you can get 234, Hunt 234, which is what I call the mosquito season. That's statewide during the month of May, except for private land in southern Michigan. So it is a bit of a challenge for some hunters to get to their hunting property this year with the situation the way that it is. My hope is that you can make the most of it. You can actually get out and do some turkey hunting and take advantage of it. I've had 2 full, wonderful days in the woods. Opening morning was absolutely beautiful. It was cold, clear, calm to start the day. And the birds were gobbling like crazy. I was absolutely surrounded by birds, and I thought, okay, Avery, here we go. They hit the ground and they shut up. Monday morning when I was out there, I never heard a gobble. I didn't hear them gobble on the roost. I didn't hear them gobble once they hit the ground. I was able to call a few hens in, but not one longbeard at all. Am I frustrated? Disappointed? Absolutely not. My season is far from over. I have put constraints and restrictions on myself by choosing to use a recurve bow. Even if I get a big bird in front of me, it's no guarantee I'm going to shoot it, and that's okay. For me, the experience is the experience. It's just getting out there and doing it. A bird is just a bonus, and I have a lot of time. Maybe more time this year because I can't get the Angler Quest out yet. Normally by now I'd be like, okay, I want to get my bird so I can go walleye fishing. Well, I can't get the Angler Quest out, so it's a moot point. I might as well keep turkey hunting and enjoy it, right? I have had a chance to experiment a little bit more with my fly rod. I told you I've been playing around with that. I have this fascination with teaching myself a new skill at this point in life, and I think fly fishing is that skill. I don't see myself ever chasing trout, on the holy waters of the Ausable, anything like that, but I got bluegills in the pond behind the house, and a fly rod seems like the perfect tool to do that. I was having a hard time with my casting. Last week on the show, we had Dave Kronk of Jay Sporting Goods, and he gave me this bit of advice. He said, number one, keep your wrist locked. Don't, keep a straight wrist. And when you do your back cast, he said, turn around and look at the line behind you so you know what the timing is to make your forward cast. That made all the difference in the world. So actually, I can get that fly out there now. It's not beautiful. It's not textbook. It's not anything you'd want to put on YouTube, but it's getting the fly out there. But here's my concern. I haven't caught a bluegill on a fly yet, but I haven't even seen any. Now, there are a bunch of fish in that pond. I don't think it was cold enough to get a winter die-off. I haven't seen any signs of dead fish. We don't have any mink in there or cormorants in there eating fish. Maybe it's water temp. Maybe the water is just too cold. Maybe I'm pushing the season a little bit. But I'm going to keep at it. So I'm going to keep after the turkeys. I'm going to keep at it with that fly rod when the wind will allow, when we don't have a windy day, which has been kind of few and far between early last week, right? With the trout season coming up, have you seen or have you yourself gone out to pick up any night crawlers? Now, you know me. I don't like night crawlers for walleye, but I get that night crawlers for trout are excellent. And it used to be, back in the day, that this couple of weeks leading up to trout season, you would see people out after dark around the parks and their yards and golf courses and stuff looking for night crawlers, picking up night crawlers. You don't see that as much anymore, especially this year, maybe because it's been so cold. Maybe the night crawlers just aren't active yet. Maybe that's the same problem with my bluegills. I saw a situation, Kathy's making a comment right now during our Facebook Live. She's been getting lots of crawlers. Good, Kathy. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I saw a situation yesterday involving an eagle's nest, an active eagle's nest, and excavation and logging very near that eagle's nest. And it's really bothered me. I'm out of time in this segment, but I'll bring it up later in the show. And the question is, are eagles now so insignificant that we should just go ahead and ignore their nesting sites? Or are they still important enough that we should try to avoid disturbing those birds during this time of year? I'll talk more about that. Hey, coming up on this week's show, Dave Rose of Wild Fishing talking about non-motorized boating opportunities. Nick Grillo of Michigan Brand talking about killing a big turkey with his dart and crossbow, also a promotion to get very inexpensive gas through the Forward Corporation. Mark Romanek in hour number 2. Amy Trotter on their lawsuit against the ban on motorized fishing. Josh Mapes talks year-round coyote hunting, and Dave Miner has a great turkey recipe. That's coming up in this week's Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK, that's 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Tawas on WIOS, AM and FM, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge. Let's go to Newberry, WNBY, 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Speedy Blaze. Speedy Blaze, a safe, clean, water-resistant alternative to firewood. And it's safe to cook over because it's made from recycled hardwood. Great for campfires, great for bonfires. Really a great Michigan-made product. By the way, we give away Speedy Blaze every Wednesday night during our Wednesday Night Live. Check them out online at speedyblaze.com. That's speedyblaze.com. Well, this is last Saturday in April, is the traditional walleye opener in the Lower Peninsula and the trout opener statewide. This year, things are going to be a little bit different because as we are in the studio right now, motorized boats are still not allowed for fishing. Again, that is as of right now while we're in the studio. But that doesn't mean you can't go fishing. I mean, yeah, things are going to look a little different, but there are still a lot of opportunities out there. To talk more about that, I wanted to invite Dave Rose along with us. Dave, an outdoor writer and a fishing guide as well. You can learn more on his website, wildfishing.com, wildfishing.com. David, welcome back. How are you?
You know, I'm not too bad. We'll just put it that way, for all things considered.
Well, that's all we can do, right? There are things in this world that we have no control over, but what we do have control over are our actions and how we view the world, so we just got to make the most of it.
Right. No, I totally agree, and getting outside and getting some fresh air is one of those things that we are in control of.
My sense is, Dave, and I don't even pretend to be a stream trout fisherman anymore. Nothing against it. I just have moved away from it. But it used to be the opening day of trout season was a big, big deal. These days, I feel like with all the different openers and some streams are open year-round and such, that maybe the opener of trout season isn't what it used to be.
When it comes to the excitement, I will agree with that, and I feel bad for a lot of resort owners and stuff like that because in these past few years where, like you say, muskie, pike, walleye, the in-stream trout, they all open on the same day now. And it used to be each one was so exciting. There was a walleye season, there was a muskie opener season, and then there was the trout season, and it was just each weekend that those opened up, it was something to really look forward to. Now it's still something to look forward to, But, I mean, you think about the resorts and stuff like that, they'd get guys and gals that come up for, maybe 2 or 3 times because it was an opener of something different. So.
It's a great time of year, though, even with things going on. Are you going to go trout fishing? You going walleye fishing? You going turkey hunting? You going to go out and look for morels? I mean, it's been a little bit cold, but still, what a great time of year.
Yeah, it is. It's a great time of year. It just, when the sun pops out, and which might not always be the best fishing conditions when it's a bright, sunny day, but, man, it just feels good to stand there in the sun.
Because we can't take out our motorized boat to go fishing, that does limit some opportunities, especially the walleye guys, but there's still a lot of opportunities out there, isn't there, Dave?
Yeah, you'd be surprised at the number of rivers that walleye swim up to spawn, and big rivers like Muskegon or Manistee or wherever. There's a lot of places you can go. Maybe some of the pier heads even as these walleye got done spawning. Pretty much the spawn is over around here for the walleye, but you can go to a pier head and maybe catch some of those, like steelhead fishermen call them dropbacks and stuff like that. So these fish that have spawned and just working their way out. So the opportunity is there, and it's very overlooked when it comes to the walleye anglers.
Well, it might get looked at a little bit more closely this year. Let's talk about pier fishing and surf fishing. What a great way to get up close and personal with these fish. I mean, if you're surf fishing, you're standing in their backyard trying to catch them. Yeah,
you're wading with the fishies right there, and you can do it from a beach. It doesn't have to be at a pier head. And the beach, the beach goers right now, because maybe some of the stub piers or whatever are a little narrow, and got to keep your social distance of 6 feet or whatever it is nowadays. And so surf fishing. Grab a spawn bag, put a night crawler on. Whatever, and cast into the surf, and you'd be surprised. It could be a brown, could be a steelhead, could be a walleye, could be most anything.
But where? I mean, you talk about standing in the surf. There's a lot of Great Lake shoreline, even some big inland lakes. There's a lot of places to go. I mean, they don't all hold fish, do they?
Oh, you'd be surprised, and I think that's, again, we were talking about overlooked fisheries that are going to get looked at a little bit more this year, and that is surf fishing. Like you say, some of these inland lakes, there might be a township park or something like that that butts right up to the beach or the water, and good places to surf fish. And how do you know fish are there? Well, you have to try. You just have to, and you can't really go just one time and say, oh, didn't get a hit, no fish here. I've got some really unique spots I catch fish at, but I had to hit them maybe 2 or 3 times before maybe I caught a fish and understood what this new area. We'll just put it that way.
Well, I used to think, it had to be near a river mouth or a warm water discharge or something like that, or a pier or something, jutting out into the water. But those fish routinely just cruise the shallows feeding, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. Oh, they're cruising. And when you say shallows, it's not like you have to make the furthest cast out to get where the fish are. You would be surprised, wave action and whatnot, you'll have these troughs that are literally, 6 feet from the shore. And I've caught steelhead, for an example, in the surf, just lobbing out a spawn bag or whatever. I could have waded past those fish, walked way out into the Lake Michigan or wherever, whipped their way out there, and I'll still do that. I'll still put one way out there. But, yeah, the shallows, it's amazing. Again, you don't know it until you try it.
Well, Dave, of course you have to make a long cast because it's the same thinking that when you leave the boat launch, you have to go to the other side of the lake.
Oh, yeah. You'd never fish in front of the boat launch you launched at. You go in front of the other boat launch. That's right.
But these on the Great Lakes, now that you talk about these troughs, these sandbars, your placement there, like if you're going to be floating spawn or a crawler or something, do you want to be in that trough or you want to be on top of the bar, or does it matter?
It really can matter. And so instead of using sonar like you might on your motorized boat, you are going to use your eyes. And a good quality pair of polarized glasses is a must when you're surf fishing, believe it or not. Because you can look out, let's say Lake Michigan, beach, water's clear, you can see a sandbar that comes up. Probably not best to cast on top of that sandbar, but place it so it's either on the inside or the outside or wherever, right alongside. Those are like the underwater highways for fish, these troughs, these break lines. And that's why a lot of times, like I said, they could be literally 6 feet from shore because there's a trough there from all that wave action digging out the sand and gravel.
What kind of depths are we talking? How shallow are we talking?
Well, it could be anywhere from literally 3 feet to 12 feet or whatever. There's some places up here where I'm at in northwest lower Michigan where I can go to a beach and literally cast into 40 feet of water, 50 feet of water, because there's such a big drop-off. But I try again, place my offering along that edge. And so, these fish, they're just cruising, so it could be 10 feet or whatever. And yeah, I mean, it's get on the edges, just like deer hunters hunt the edges of whatever, swamps or fields or whatever. Fish are the same way.
What type of gear are we talking? I don't think you'd want to take your 6-foot jigging rod out there and try to lob a lure way out.
Well, you could. I mean, if that's what you got.
Yeah, use what you got, right? Yeah.
Yeah, use what you got. You can cast a spoon or a spinner or something like that. Lobbing the live bait, it's always good to have a little longer rod, and I'll reel with a decent-sized spool on it so it can hold quite a bit of line just in case you do. It's one of those areas where you do have to wade out a ways, cast, walk back to shore to put it in your rod holder. So I'm going to say 9 foot and longer on the rods. You're going to get a much farther cast. And also, because of the wave action and whatnot, it keeps your line up off the water surface farther out. And that wave action isn't going to be moving the placement of your bait, because waves will hit your line. It'll drag your offering all over the place.
Do you want your bait laying on the bottom, or do you want it floating up off the bottom a little bit?
Floating up off bottom is always good. Because the fish will bottom feeders and not just suckers and carp, but even northern pike and all that kind of stuff, and I can explain that in a minute. But if you're using a spawn bag or a night crawler or something like that, something to help keep that up off bottom a little bit, maybe a foot or two, is always good. It allows the scent of whatever you're using to waft in the water currents a little better too.
So you're using an egg sinker or a pyramid sinker or something. To keep it to the bottom, but you want your line going through that so they can take it. Explain that setup to me.
Yeah, well, like you say, slip sinker, pyramid sinker, all sorts of different kinds of sinkers. As long as your line can slide through the opening, that's what you want, because the fish can grab your bait, start to swim off with it, doesn't have the resistance of, let's say, this 1 or however big ounce sinker that you've got on there. Sometimes if the surf's up, you got to use quite a bit of weight to keep it in place. Egg sinkers are good. They tend to roll in the surf a little bit. The pyramid sinker, like you're talking about, those slide on the line real nice, and because they're pyramid shaped, they'll stick in the bottom of here a little bit. So a leader. So what I do is I got, let's say, a 10-pound test main line. I will put my slip sinker on there. I will put a bead on, and that bead's not just for an attractor. What's going to happen next is I tie on a swivel. So what that bead does, it tends to slip over the knot, and your sinker isn't bashing against the knot all the time and weakening that knot. So that just helps you not lose fish and break off because of that bead. So slip sinker, bead, swivel, small swivel. Doesn't have to be this giant swivel. Usually I use a little lighter line if I'm surf fishing, maybe 4-pound test, 6-pound test, 8-pound test, like if I was using 10-pound main line. Oh, a couple feet long, and then a small hook. It could be a small treble hook, could be a small, I call them egg hooks or whatever, octopus-style hook, single hook. The options are endless when it comes to the hooks. But you want them small. You don't want to impede, number one, the action of your bait wafting to and fro in the currents, and the fish doesn't get a big piece of metal in its mouth when it eats your spawn bag.
We're talking with Dave Rose about the non-motorized boating fishing opportunities, and there are a lot of them. We got to take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, I want to talk with Dave a little bit more about casting, spoons or spinners, also smelt, any smelt opportunities out there, and we'll see what else is on his mind. You can learn more about Dave on his website, wildfishing.com. That's wildfishing.com. And this year, if we are ever allowed back on our boats, Dave has promised me he will join me on Saginaw Bay on the Angler Quest for a day of walleye fishing, and I'm looking forward to that. But first, a break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK, that's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Sandusky on WMIC, 660 AM, and north of the bridge in the Sioux on ESPN 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Quest headquarters. For right now, Linwood Beach is effectively shut down, but they are ready to rock as soon as they get the okay to open back up and take care of all your boating and fishing and camping needs. I took a walk the other day. I somehow happened to end up at Linwood Beach, and there was my Angler Quest on the trailer. She was calling my name. I said, be patient. Be patient. We'll get back on the water soon. Check the folks at Linwood Beach out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. Right now, we're talking with Dave Rose. You can learn more about him at Wild Fishing, wildfishing.com. And Dave, I keep mentioning your website as a way of pressuring you to update your website.
I know. And I've been working pretty diligently, doing a lot of writing and whatnot. And so, yes, it's one of those things I sat down just the other day and says, I really need to update that. So, yes.
Hey, listen, I know that list of things that needs to get done. I can relate to that completely.
Yep.
We were talking about surf fishing earlier, concentrating primarily on fishing live bait. But while you've got that live bait rig out there, it's a good idea with a second rod, or now we can run 3, to do some casting with a rod, right?
Oh, yeah. And one thing I've learned, it's kind of funny, from years of pier fishing or surf fishing or whatever it was I was doing, some days they prefer one over the other. They'd rather have what we call hardware, like the spoon or the spinner. That's just whatever the conditions were for that day, and you could go the next day and they want that live bait. But yeah, casting spoons and spinners and whatnot can be a very effective way to catch, especially browns or steelhead or salmon.
Spoons, I can understand casting spoons like a Clio or something, but a spinner, that's at least the spinners I'm used to, it's kind of hard to cast, isn't it?
Well, they could be. You might want some 10 or 8 pound test line. We talked about having a little longer rod, so you've got more momentum there when you're casting. But I tend to use bigger spinners than most people. So starting at a size 4, which is the size of the blade, and those tend to have a little more weight to them, all those little brass bodies and whatnot. There are some spinner companies out there that make what they call like a long cast spinner. It has a lot more weight to it. It probably weighs more than a spoon, and you can get that out there, cast it out further, and still slow retrieve it and catch fish on it.
Wonderful. What about smelt? Have you heard of anybody getting any smelt at all?
I have not yet, and I just posted on my Facebook page, a memory from 4 years ago. Now, that 4 years ago, my brother happened to go just into Canada, and there's some small rivers there where the smelt still run fairly well in Lake Superior. In fact, last couple years in Lake Superior, the smelt the smelt spawning, there's been more smelt than we've seen in a long time. And just any of these little streams or shorelines can do pretty good. Lake Michigan's been a little tougher. The environment in Lake Michigan has changed so much due to invasives and all sorts of stuff. And the smelt population's a little tougher there. And, of course, Lake Huron, there's quite a few popular smelt areas where they still dip a few. Now, it's not getting a pickup truck bed full like, back in the olden days or something like that, but you can get a nice, you can get your couple gallons worth of smelt, which is the limit. And and which is plenty of smelt. That's a lot of smelt.
Yeah, nobody wants to clean more smelt than that.
No, I know. It's like when we ice fish for them and whatnot, which has unfortunately changed dramatically too in the wrong direction, just because the environment of the inland lakes, because of the invasive species and whatnot. But yeah, back in the heydays when we were catching a lot of smelt through the ice, I'd always stop at 100. It's like, that's plenty, because I'll go back out and catch more if I want more. But, it's so a lot of people's eyes are bigger than their stomachs.
Oh, yeah.
And, you end up wasting fish.
If you were going to be on a trout stream this weekend, would you be throwing a fly, or would you be drifting a crawler, or would you be throwing a spinner?
D, all the above. I love doing it all. I'm still a worm dabbler by heart. I love it. Sometimes I do small, like black marabou jigs, which can imitate all sorts of bugs or whatever, and cast it out and kind of hop it through a little hole. But like I said, a chunk of crawler is still one of my favorite things to use. And it depends. It's going to depend on the size of the stream, too. Fly fishing and casting spinners, you're going to need more of one of our rivers where you can get you can cast it out there a ways and work the water a little better with it. Just a nice slow retrieve with the spinner, just barely having that blade waggle in the water, and cast slightly upstream and bring it back towards you in that downstream manner, and I'd be doing that. And a lot of my fly buddies, they cast small streamers. It's not necessarily like a bug hatch going on, so there are some, but right now it's more subsurface type flies with nymphs or streamers and the like.
All right, Dave, listen, good luck to you. I appreciate you bringing us up to speed on all such opportunities. I wish you good fishing, and I look forward to spending a day on the Angler Quest on the bay this summer.
It sounds great. I'm really looking forward to it. So you just got to give me 2 days notice. How's that?
All right, I will do that. Dave Rose of Wild Fishing, wildfishing.com. Dave talks about fishing trout. As a guy who grew up fishing a very small creek, I call crick, for a brook trout with a spinning rod, maybe an old Zebco at one point, drifting crawlers through the holes and runs. Oh, it was so much fun, so much fun. We will take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we're going to talk a little turkey with Nick Grillo of Michigan Brand Meats. He just scored on a big bird, but he made the transition from a gun hunter to a bow hunter. I want to talk with him about that coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Caro on WKYO 1360 AM. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC AM and FM. That's 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us in Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by MUCC's On the Ground program. OTG is a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. For details, check out the Michigan United Conservation Club's website, MUCC.org. By the way, if you want to save 25% on your MUCC membership, use the promo code MIKE on that website, MUCC.org. And coming up in our second hour, Amy Trotter, Executive Director of MUCC, will be joining us to talk about their lawsuit challenging the motorboat ban here in the great state of Michigan. But first, let's talk a little turkey with my friend Nick Grillo, Nick of Michigan Brand Meats, michiganbrand.net. Nick is an avid hunter, an avid angler, and just this morning, as we are recording this show, he shot a big bird on his own property. Nick, congrats on that. Now you've taken a nice buck and a big bird off your own land. That's got to be pretty rewarding.
Yep, definitely, Mike. That was my goal for the first year, and we did it, so I'm real happy.
And, Nick, you did something else this year. You switched over from hunting with a shotgun to a dart and crossbow. Tell me the thinking, the theory there.
Yeah, so I've shot probably 4 or 5 birds the last, 5, 6, 8 years, and they've all been with the shotgun. And I'm real confident with the shotgun, and I'm, a pretty avid bow hunter when it comes to deer hunting. And I went up bear hunting with you last year up in White River with the bow, and I said, you know what, why am I doing this? I should try my bow. And I was still a little hesitant about it, to make that switch. And I actually watched a couple of your videos on YouTube, Mike, and a couple of your crossbow kills with the turkeys. And I said, I can do this too. So I just took the plunge, and I'm really glad I did.
And so you shot it with your dart and crossbow. How cool is that? Tell me the story of this bird this morning. You called him right in off the roost or what?
Yep, it was perfect. I actually had 2 toms on Sunday that I was working, and they both cut through these woods. So I moved my pop-up kind of in their area, but it was a little too close for comfort. When I got back there, he was roosted only about 50 yards from my pop-up.
I've done that before. Surprise.
Yep. So I had to be real careful setting up my decoys and all my gear, but it did work out perfect. He flew down and worked for about 15 minutes or so and came right into me and attacked my Jake decoy, and I let him have it with the crossbow. And yeah, that dart in it, man, it plowed right through that turkey. Perfect shot. He dropped within 5 seconds.
Oh my goodness! Because I'll tell you what, turkeys are surprisingly hard to kill with a broadhead. I mean, you got to have a good shot on them, or you're going to end up chasing them.
Yeah, exactly. And I waited for that perfect shot, but at the same time, I wanted to see what he was doing to the decoys too. So once he jumped on the Jake and he whacked it a couple of times attacking it, it was pretty fun. But then he gave me that perfect shot, so I didn't hesitate any longer, and I let him have it. And like I said, it was literally 3 or 4 steps from my decoy. In 5 seconds, he was done. No more.
So did you shoot him when he was in strut, or what was his position?
Nope, he wasn't in strut, but he was kind of doing that hover over top of the Jake, where he had his head perked up, and he was kind of puffing out his chest, but he wasn't strutting or nothing. So he did open up a little bit, and I shot him right above the leg, and it, like I said, complete pass through, and you didn't even know I hit him. It was awesome.
Wow. And you got it on video?
Yep. I actually had 3 cameras going. I've been experimenting with the GoPro, so I had one on the decoy, I had one on me shooting, and then I had my big camera on the tripod, all self-filmed. And it actually came together, so it worked out great.
We're going to see a Nick Grillo Outdoors TV show before too long.
Maybe. I can't compete with you, obviously.
Well, that's a great story. I'm really happy for you. And now, since the Michigan brand, you're in the meat processing business, you know what to do with that bird.
Exactly, yep. I'm saving the breasts to do maybe some pot pies or do some kind of soup with them. But the legs, I'm actually going to take into work and get them pumped with our ham brine, just like you can do your venison hindquarters, and get them pumped with our ham brine and smoke them and have smoked turkey legs.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, we did it a couple years ago, and my last couple turkeys I haven't done it, and I was hoping to get one this year because I've been itching for that, a smoked turkey leg. So, yep.
Wonderful. Hey, and before we let you go, too, I got to mention, too, I paid $1.06 a gallon for gas the other day at a Forward station. You guys have a deal where if you and Forward Corporation, if you buy gas from Forward Corporation, you get 7 cents off for every bag of Hunter sticks, including the Mike Avery Hunter sticks. So I had, 3 or 4 bags I bought. I paid $1.06 a gallon for gas. And that promotion now goes through the end of May, doesn't it, Nick?
Yeah. Isn't that like a crazy good deal? It's an awesome promo that us and Forwards are running together. So like you said, it's any package. So it can be 6, 8 different flavors. It can be 5 of the same flavor, and every single pack, 7 cents off. So yeah, it's a great deal. Yeah,
that adds up fast. So I appreciate the folks from Forward Corporation making that available. Appreciate you getting involved. I'll send people to the website MichiganBrand.net. And Nick, congrats. I can't wait to see that video.
Yep, I'll post some pictures here and send them your way.
All right, Nick, I look forward to it. Congrats again. That'll wrap up this first hour of this week's Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we're going to talk a little fishing with Mark Romanak of Fishing 411. Then Amy Trotter from MUCC will join us to talk about the lawsuit they have filed challenging the ban on using a motorized boat to go fishing. In hour number 3, we're talking coyote hunting, even this time of year, with Josh Mapes of Overdrive Outdoors, and wild game chef Dave Miner will have a great turkey recipe that's coming up yet this week right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Forward Corporation and T.R. McTaggart, Angler Quest Boats, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, though not as big as I used to be. Mike Avery, welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network, 29 AM and FM stations across the great state of Michigan, and glad to have you along with us. This is a radio show. It is recorded, produced, put together as a radio show to air on those affiliates across the state. And I always say the best way to listen to Outdoor Magazine Radio, if you can, is on your local AM or FM station. If you can't, if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, or if your local affiliate doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, you can always hear the entire show, all 3 hours, online as a podcast. Everybody's doing a podcast these days, and I think that is wonderful. The more opportunity we have to get content out there, the better. The more opportunities you have to learn about outdoor-related activities, the better. But I've been doing a podcast for a very, very long time. You can hear the podcast version of the radio show on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. In fact, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, kind of a clearinghouse for all things Outdoor Magazine Radio and Mike Avery Outdoors. You can also hear it on my Facebook page, the Mike Avery Outdoors Facebook page. You can hear it on the Avery Outdoors Twitter feed. If you're on LinkedIn, I put it up there. You can hear it on iTunes, Google Play, our mobile app. Yes, we have a free mobile app. You can download it from the iTunes Store or Google Play. A lot of people listen to the podcast on iHeartRadio. You can hear it on SoundCloud, on Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, radio.com. And now I even put it up on YouTube. And I know that's kind of crazy, right? Why would you put a radio show on YouTube? Well, I found a way to kind of do a video version of, and you can see it on the Mike Avery Outdoors YouTube channel as well. But regardless of how you are listening, I do certainly appreciate it. I want to talk a little fishing now with a guy who I think is just the consummate angler, fishing educator, outdoor communicator. And his name is Mark Romanek of Fishing 411, fishing411.net. Mark, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Mike, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Everybody healthy at your house?
Yeah, we got no serious illnesses here. We're all just kind of shut in and hoping for better times ahead.
Well, normally this time of year, I would have a terrible time trying to nail you down for a radio show because you'd be on the water somewhere.
That's true. I mean, April is probably the most important month of the year for us. We're getting deep into our filming season at that point. Plus, quite frankly, we spent the whole winter doing seminars and stuff. We're looking to get away from people and distancing on the water, if you get my drift.
I do. So, listen, does this put a serious crimp in your production schedule then?
Oh, big time. I mean, it's huge. If we couldn't be filming here up until a few weeks ago, it looked like maybe we were going to be able to spend some time on the water doing precision trolling testing, but even that's shut down now. So because I can't use a motorboat, both of my businesses are in limbo right now.
Well, hopefully that'll change soon. I was talking with Dave Rose in the first hour about some fishing opportunities from non-motorized boats. But listen, let's look ahead to the future. Let's assume that here in a relatively short period of time, we're going to be back on the water, and let's talk more about that. You mentioned precision trolling. Man, what you guys have accomplished with that, Mark, is nothing short of astounding. You have literally created what we call the Troller's Bible when it was in print version. If you are a troller, this now an app can literally change the way you fish.
Well, I would agree, and it didn't happen overnight. It's taken a long time for us to collect all the data that we have available on our app. But essentially, for people who might not be familiar with it, well, if you're a troller, you understand one basic fundamental. You have to know how deep those fish are in order to catch them. So the depth of fish you're at is super, super critical. But if you don't know how deep your gear is running, you might be fishing above or below those fish and not catching them, even though you potentially could be using the right lures. So what precision trolling does is simply allows you to look at your sonar unit, determine how deep the fish are, look up the lure you want to use on our app, and determine how much line to let out in order to get it to the target depth that you're trying to achieve. It really is that simple, Mike.
Is the old saying that fish will come up to take a bait but won't go down in the water column to take a bait, is that accurate?
Well, I think it is to a degree. I can't honestly say the fish won't go down to attack a lure. If the fish is hot enough and active enough, he's probably going to go up or down in the water column. But common sense is what we're dealing with here. You really want to present your lures near the fish but slightly above them, because all fish species have their eyes mounted near the front and on the top of their head, which means that they view above them better than they can see things below them. So if they don't see it, there's a pretty good chance they're not going to eat it. And so I think common sense suggests that we want to keep our lures slightly above the fish we're trying to target.
In the trolling hierarchy, I mean, you've got speed, you've got depth, you've got lure choice, you've got lure color. I mean, what is most important in catching fish? Obviously,
I think it's depth. And in my opinion, if you know exactly where those fish are in the water column, you've got a huge advantage. And then if you also know where your lures are running in the water column, of course, you're putting 2 and 2 together. Once I get to that point and I'm presenting my lures at the depth where I know fish are at, if I'm not catching them at that point, then I'm going to look for other variables. Speed would be my second variable, either speeding up or slowing down. And, speeding up obviously makes it more difficult for the fish to get the lure. They have to react to it. Slowing down gives them more time to scrutinize it. And so depending on the activity level of those fish, speed becomes number 2 in my mind.
Does speed affect the depth that lure will run at?
Well, it does in certain instances. Like, for example, if you're fishing an offshore tackle snap weight, obviously if you slow down, it's going to sink. It's going to go deeper. If you speed up, it's going to come higher in the water column. So from that perspective, yeah, speed can be very important. Excuse me, but if you're just using a regular floating diving crankbait like a Hottentot or a wiggle wart or, a husky jerk or whatever you might be using, those lures are not determined by speed as far as how deep they go. Speed influences their action. If you go faster, they have more liveliness and more action. If you slow down, the lure has less action, is less lively, but it runs to approximately the same depth. So, again, it's just one of those fundamental things about trolling that once you understand, you can put it to use catching more fish.
And each bait or lure has a maximum depth they're going to dive on a given line diameter. Does the lead length vary in how far that maximum depth is bait to bait?
Considerably. What we've noticed is that the shallower a bait is by nature, you get to a point of diminishing return where you just can't get much more depth out of that lure. A classic example of that would be like a stick bait, like a 14 husky jerk, which dives to about 8 feet. And it achieves that within about 100 feet of lead. You could let it out 200 feet, and you might achieve another couple of inches, but it's not worth letting the line out that much further to achieve such a small goal. Now, contrary to that, deeper diving lures that have a pretty steep dive curve that dive significantly deep, they just keep going down and down and down. But eventually you do reach a point of diminishing return there as well. And typically that's between 200 and 250 feet back. You could let a lure out twice that distance and maybe get a little bit more out of it, but not enough to justify that much line out.
Your shallow running baits, would there be an instance, though, where you would want to put it out that 200 feet, that extra, say if the fish are really squirrely, if they're really boat shy or whatever, would it make sense to put that bait out to get it away from the boat, or just put it on an offshore board and get it out to the side and call it good?
Well, not everybody is pulling boards, and so, yeah, I would say that there are times when having a bait a significant distance behind the boat is a good deal. I mean, it's likely going to catch you some more fish. The problem with that becomes line stretch. Depends on what type of line you're using. If you're a braid guy, certainly you can let those lures way back and have plenty of opportunity to get good hook sets on those fish. On the other hand, if you're using monofilament and you've got a stick bait 200 feet behind the boat, fish got to eat it pretty hard. He's got to be pretty aggressive. The chances are you're not going to stick that fish even if he does bite. Too much stretch in monofilament. So it really boils down to what type of line a person wants. You mentioned planer boards. Well, certainly offshore tackle, in the OR-12 side planer solves that whole problem because long lead or short lead, it doesn't matter. You can still put them out to the side of the boat, cover more water, and catch those fish that might be boat shy.
I'm an old school guy. I'm still running 10-pound XT as my trolling line. Should I switch over to braid?
No, not necessarily. If you're comfortable with it, by all means, stay with it. I'm still running monofilament, also XT. It worked back then. It still works today. But there's a lot of people who would argue that braid has some inherent advantages, and certainly that thinner diameter, the ability to get your lures a little deeper, maybe a little better hook sets because of the lack of stretch. And to me, the biggest advantage with braid comes to the fact that it's expensive to buy, but it lasts much, much longer. So you don't have to replace it every year. And I think that's what is really tipped the scales for people that are fishing braid. They load it, in the springtime, and they don't have to put new line on for maybe 2 or even 3 seasons. Now, you just can't get away with that with monofilament.
Well, and I'll be honest. One of the reasons I use XT is it's one of the common lines listed on your Precision Trolling app. So I know that I'm right in the ballpark. We're talking with Mark Romanek of Fishing 411 and Precision Trolling, fishing411.net, precisiontrolling.com. Mark.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
PrecisionTrolling.com, fishing411.net. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we'll talk much more about the finer points of trolling, how to fine-tune your presentation to become a more effective troller, and we'll talk a little bit whatever else is on Mark's mind as well. After that, Amy Trotter from MUCC joins us with an update on their lawsuit challenging the ban on using a motorized boat to go fishing. And in hour number 3, we're talking coyote hunting, and wild game chef Dave Miner has a great turkey recipe. That's coming up yet this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Traverse City on WTCM. That's 580 AM. You can hear us in Port Huron on WPHM 1380 AM. And north of the bridge, let's go to Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Great Lakes Charter Training. If you've ever wanted to be a licensed captain, and that is a fishing charter captain, a dive boat captain, a sightseeing tour, a towboat captain, whatever. If you're going to be on the water and take customers, you have to be licensed. And the process to get licensed by the Coast Guard is pretty stringent, as it should be. I took the class from Captain Mel Stackpool last spring to get my captain's license, and was able to pass the Coast Guard test first time around. And I'm confident that I would not have been able to do that had I done it on my own. Now, my paperwork right now is still sitting at the Coast Guard waiting to be approved. It's been slowed down, as most everything has, but I'm patiently waiting. Great Lakes Charter Training is working on a class right now where they can do an online class, because obviously we can't meet in person. So check out this online option. I think it's a great way to go, especially now since a lot of people have some time on their hands. Check out the website, glctraining.com. That's glctraining.com. If you're looking to become a licensed captain, I really think this is the way to go. Mark Romanek, I don't think is a licensed captain, but he's done just about everything else that a guy can do on the water professionally over the years, that's for sure. He's an outdoor writer. He's a video producer. He's a promoter. He's the host of an outdoor television show. He's trained as a naturalist. Mark, your credentials are very, very impressive. But let me ask you this. The truly good anglers that I know seem to have the ability, and I'm going to oversimplify this, to think like a fish. That's an ability I do not have. Is this something a person can learn, or is this something you are born with?
Well, don't feel bad, Mike. To be quite honest with you, most of the people who I've encountered don't think like fish. They find it very difficult to think their way out of those situations. And in many cases, it's because we give fish way too much credit for being smart. The fact of the matter is they're not. I mean, fish are just reactionary creatures. They do things based on very simple motivations. They're either looking to spawn, they're looking to eat, and they're doing very basic things. They're looking for a water temperature, for comfort zone. And if we simplify it, it makes it a lot easier to find fish. When we start giving fish a lot of credit for being smart or making cognitive decisions, we're going down a slippery slope, because, quite honestly, I don't think that's what's happening.
So why and I realize you fish many, many different ways. You will do whatever it takes to catch fish. But I think of you as a guy who likes to troll, and you work very closely with offshore. Why is trolling so darned effective for catching fish?
Two simple reasons. One, you're covering an abundance of water, and so you're much more likely to blunder into fish. And then secondly, the ability to run multiple lines, so you're putting a lot of baits in a potential strike zone. For me, I fish a lot of different places. I go to other states and stuff. If I go to a state where you can only run 2 lines, or a state like Minnesota where you can only run 1 line, I literally feel like I have my hands tied behind my back. Adding extra lines is mathematically critically important. I mean, the statistics are simple. You put more lines in the water, you have a much greater likelihood of contacting and catching fish. So, that's what trolling really comes down to. You're covering water, and if you're in an area where you can run multiple lines, you can saturate the water column with effective lures.
Some people look at trolling as a lazy man's way to fish, but I don't know. I think if you're doing it right, it's far from being lazy, isn't it?
Well, I laugh at that because I hear it all the time. I mean, I rarely give a seminar on trolling where somebody doesn't express that exact feeling. And I get it. If on the outside looking in, trolling does look to be a little boring. I mean, you're just sitting on the seat there waiting for something to happen, so to speak. But my response to that is if you're bored while you're trolling, you're not working at it hard enough. There are lots of variables that you can be adjusting. There's lots of things that you can be doing to make yourself more efficient at trolling. And so get off the seat, get on your feet, and start working your gear.
And what do you mean by that, working your gear?
Well, I guess we say that all the time, use that phrase a lot. And essentially working the gear is thinking about the things that need to be changed and changing those variables. Maybe you're changing out a lure. Maybe you're changing out the lead length that you're using on that lure. Maybe instead of running that lure on a planer board, you're running it on a Dipsy diver. Maybe instead of running it on a Dipsy diver, you're using it on a downrigger. But there's lots of ways to move our lures and our trolling gear up and down and all around in the water column until we find something that works. Because quite frankly, trolling is a lot about trial and error. And then once you figure out what works, you're kind of replicating what works.
If you want to get a bait deeper, without switching to a different bait, what is more effective? A snap weight or a guppy, or put it behind a mini diver, or put it behind lead core? I mean, what's the best way to get a bait deeper?
I think for most people, a snap weight is probably the simplest solution. They're affordable. They're really easy to use. I mean, anybody can figure out how to use one. You literally let out some line with your lure, clip the snap weight on the line. It's going to stay there. I let out some more line, and that weight of that snap weight will take that lure deeper. So fundamentally, they're super easy to fish. And so the first thing I reach for when I'm trying to get a bait deeper is a snap weight. There are other ways to do it. I mean, you could do it with a downrigger, or you could do it with a diving planer, you could do it with lead core. But without having to invest in a lot of other gear, the simplest thing to achieve that basic goal is a snap weight. They're in my boat every day. There's never a time when I'm trolling I don't have them handy.
And do you stick with what we used to call the old 50-50 method? Is that the best way to do it?
Well, the 50-50 method, for those who haven't used it, is a good starting point. It basically lets your lure out 50 foot, put the snap weight on, let out another 50 foot of line, and then start trolling. And if you want to manipulate that depth, you can slow down or speed up, or you can change the size or the weight of the snap weight in order to manipulate your depth. So the 50-50 system is a very good starting point. But once people start learning how to use snap weights, they quickly abandon just the 50-50 and they start doing all kinds of other creative rigging options, which is fine. That's all good. There's no bad way to use a snap weight. So, but if you're uncomfortable with snap weights, that's a very good place to start.
Does Precision Trolling, does the app, does that have dive curves for snap weights and lead core and all this other stuff?
Yeah, and there's a lot of confusion over that because when you look at snap weights, what we're giving you in the dive curve, what we're giving you for the depth in the app is we're giving you the depth of the weight itself, not the lure. So in other words, when snap weights first came on the market, most people weren't using them with crankbaits. Most people were using them with crawler harnesses. And so since a crawler harness doesn't dive, the depth of the snap weight is basically going to tell you the same depth as what your crawler harness is. On the other hand here, if you get a little more creative and you start using things like crankbaits, they do dive. So if you use a snap weight in conjunction with a crankbait, what's going to happen is that crankbait's going to be diving a little deeper than the weight itself. So you have to understand there's two dynamics going on there.
So you have to look at the dive curve for the weight of the snap weight and then a 50-foot lead length on the crankbait itself or whatever you're using.
That's exactly true, Mike, and that's what a lot of people simply do is they add the diving depth of the crankbait at a specific lead length to what they think the snap weight is doing, and they come up with a cumulative number. But we've made it a little simpler than that for you. If you go on the Precision Trolling app and you look in the line choice options of your favorite lure, you'll notice that a lot of them have something called the 50+2 method. And that's snap weight data that was actually tested with a specific lure, with a specific size of a snap weight, and with specific lead lengths and speeds. And so it'll give you the exact information you need without having to do any math in your head, so to speak.
How many different combinations and lures do you have in this app these days?
850 and counting.
And adding more every year.
This pot.
Man. A lot. Wow. It's just amazing. What role does electronics play in all this, Mark?
Well, I can't even imagine fishing without electronics anymore. And it's come so far, you don't have to spend a ton of money to get really, really good sonar these days. When I first started, fishing seriously and was investing in high quality sonar, it was very, very expensive. No question about it. Most people, it was cost prohibitive. But these days, you can buy entry-level sonar units for $300 to $500, $600 that are even big screen models that give you a lot of room to look at a lot of different things. In other words, you can look at 2 or 3 different types of transducer options at the same time. You could be looking at broad beam, you could be looking at chirp, you could even look at downscan or side scan imaging on inexpensive entry-level products. That just simply wasn't possible a few years ago. So your ability to find fish is all about sonar, and sonar has gotten a whole lot more affordable in recent years.
Is side scan the real deal for trolling, or is it a gimmick?
It's the real deal, but not for trolling. We rarely use side scan for trolling. If I can see fish marking directly underneath my boat, I'm going to assume that there are fish out to the side doing the same thing. But where I use side scan all the time is when we're structure fishing. When we're in a situation where we're in relatively shallow water, where traditional broad beam sonar would be next to useless, I can sit in that shallow water with side scan, and I can see out 60 feet to the side of the boat, and I can actually mark structure and fish. And I can literally cast the fish I'm marking and catch them. It's extremely valuable. So to my opinion, side scan is something primarily that we use in shallow water, not necessarily to find suspended fish, but to find bottom-oriented or structure-oriented fish.
Once we can get back on the water, what is the first thing the Fishing 411 crew is going to go after?
Oh, we'll probably try to still see if we can't find some brown trout. It's getting late in the brown trout season. As you know, that's pretty much a March and April phenomenon. But I think we've had a cool enough spring that we can probably find some brown trout. I'd love to get a brown trout show or two in the can. That would be a big deal. Obviously, walleyes are going to be a prime target for us. We'll probably be putting a significant amount of time onto that. And then, of course, our spring salmon is usually the best fishing is the first 2 weeks of May. So I've got my fingers crossed that we're still going to be allowed to get out during that time period and chase salmon. I love cohos on the grill. I got to go get me some cohos, man.
Once this is lifted, you guys aren't going to be getting much sleep. I can see that.
No, we'll work as hard as we have to get caught up. There's no question about that. The problem is you just can't make up things. I mean, let's face it, we missed out on April in the Detroit River. I mean, that's a big deal. I've fished the Detroit River in April my entire life. This will be the first time I've ever missed it. That's fundamentally, a big deal for us, and it's a shame. I can't make that up. I can't turn back the clock to April. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. Make the most of it. Mark, I wish you good luck when you get back on the water. The website's fishing411.net and precisiontrolling.com. Mark Romanek, always a pleasure to talk with you, my friend. You are a wealth of knowledge, and you're willing to share it, and I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Mike. You have a good day, buddy.
You as well. Mark Romanek of Fishing 411 and Precision Trolling, one of the icons in the fishing industry, no doubt about that. We'll take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, Amy Trotter of MUCC checks in. I want to get the latest on the lawsuit challenging the ban on the use of motorized vessels to do fishing here in Michigan. We'll see what she's thinking after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, AM and FM, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Super Talk 1570 WWCK. And you can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. Those are just 3 of our 29 affiliate stations here across the great state of Michigan. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning has been a leader in the archery industry since the mid-'40s. I think next year they're celebrating their 75th anniversary of making quality, excellent archery-related products. I like to say they make everything for bows and arrows except bows and arrows. Check them out online at boning.com, and that's BOHNING, boning.com. While you're online, of course, my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And check out this website, MUCC.org. MUCC.org, one of the online sources of information from the folks at the Michigan United Conservation Clubs. Amy Trotter is the executive director of MUCC and joins us once again. Amy, welcome back.
Thank you, Mike.
You've had an interesting week since we last talked.
Has it been a week? It feels like months.
I think it's just a week, because the last time you were on with us, you said that you were talking with an attorney about challenging the ban on motorized vessels for boating. And since then, you've actually filed that suit, right?
Correct. Yes. We filed on Sunday. And then on Tuesday, we were able to submit a motion for immediate injunction with an accompanying legal brief on the reasons why. So those have all been submitted. It really is in the judge's hands to decide what date they take that up or render any decision on that motion.
We are recording this show on Wednesday. People need to know that. It's a Wednesday when we're talking right now. But, I mean, any idea on a timetable here, Amy?
We really don't know. Of course, the courts are also working with reduced staff and remotely, so everything is filed electronically at this stage. And certainly we don't really know what other matters are in the same hands of the same judge. So it's really a mystery right now to be able to say when we may have an answer one way or the other, or if there will be a request for more information or anything like that.
So, in theory, you might not even have an answer before a ban would be lifted. So what was the reason for doing this? Was it to make a point? Was it to stand up for Michigan anglers, or what?
Certainly it is to stand up for MUCC members, anglers, hunters, boaters across Michigan, because, this is the thing, is that this is not about our right to boat. It is our constitutional right to understand the laws that you could be prosecuted under. And any reasonable person reading that executive order would not jump to the conclusion that the frequently asked questions document does, that you couldn't use a motorized boat as a result of that order. So that's really the crux of this, is to have clear and unambiguous enforcement of laws on the books and no enforcement of laws that aren't necessarily on the books.
Yeah, there was kind of a leap there between your executive order and the FAQs that ended up, and I guess maybe I probably will never know how this happened, but I think it's important, though, to address the question. You're not poo-pooing this whole coronavirus situation. You still want to keep people safe. You're not in the crowd that says, "To heck with this all, we're going to do what we want to do," right?
That is correct. We believe in scientific management. We understand disease transmission. I've been talking about it as it relates to deer for pretty much my whole career. But in this case, again, we are very cognizant of the global health pandemic facing our state and our nation. We believe that anglers and boaters and hunters should be recreating responsibly, which means social distancing at this stage of the crisis. So we understand and are willing to accept those kinds of conditions, but a father and a daughter in a fishing boat is not violating any of those social distancing factors, so that's what we're talking about, is responsible recreation at this stage, understanding in the situation that we're in, we are not ignoring the severity of this virus and the concern certainly for our hospital systems as well in certain areas.
So what you're asking for is a judge to step in here, and basically overrule the governor or somehow, and this is not going to be the correct term, put an injunction against what she's doing or what?
Very narrowly. So just on the motorized boating enforcement. So we are not attempting to supersede the entire executive order, but just narrowly that piece of the interpretation.
Well, let's hope that we get some kind of news soon, and maybe folks will even have an answer by the time they hear the radio show this weekend.
Certainly, stay tuned on our Facebook page, mucc.org, our website, and we will do our best to get out any further communications on what happens and keep them updated. So we appreciate also the tremendous outpouring of support and new members that have joined MUCC, hearing about us maybe for the first time through this. So, it's my job now to sustain that and to help them understand the value of having a watchdog like MUCC here, making sure that we are standing up for hunters and anglers in the natural resources here in Michigan.
And if folks want to get a 25% discount on joining MUCC, go to the website mucc.org and use the promo code Mike, M-I-K-E. Thank you, Amy Trotter from MUCC. We'll take a break. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery segment right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Saginaw on WSGW-FM 100.5. You can hear us in Muskegon on WKBZ 1090 AM. And you can hear us in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you by Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way the Ask Avery segment works is you can send me a question. You can email it to me, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can post it on the Facebook page, the Mike Avery Outdoors Facebook page. You can post it on Instagram, however you want to get it to me. And you can pose these questions directly to me, or it's a question that you might want me to ask somebody else. For example, somebody in the DNR or that you might not be able to get to that maybe I can. Well, feel free to submit a question. Give me your name if you want, and I will use your name on the air. That's what Marty Sorensen did. Marty sent me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. He says, Mike, this is for the Ask Avery segment. He says, this is the first spring I've had time to try turkey hunting. I'm not working because of the coronavirus shutdown. Well, I think, Marty, you're in the same shape as a lot of people. He says, but since I've never hunted them before, I don't know where to start. So he has a series of questions. What gun should I use? What kind of calls and decoys? Do I need a blind? Where should I go to hunt? Also, can I shoot a hen, or does it have to be a male bird? And finally, what do I do if I'm lucky enough to get one? Well, Marty, you're getting your money's worth on this week's Ask Avery segment because you got a bunch of questions, and I'll try to walk through them one by one. What gun should you use? I'd say use whatever shotgun you have. 12 gauge, probably the best. 20 gauge an option, certainly. You want to put a choke tube in it that gives you a good pattern, and the only way you're going to find that out is to pattern your shotgun. To shoot it at some cardboard and see how many pellets you get in the kill zone. I would not go out and buy a new turkey gun. You can make whatever shotgun you have work as a turkey gun. What kind of calls? I like the old AWA calls. Greg Abbas made those calls. My favorite call is a slate call. It's pretty easy to learn. It's very, I don't want to say it's forgiving, but it's you can make a variety of different sounds on it. It's my go-to call. It's a slate call. My next call is a push-button call, which for a beginner, a push-button call might be the way to go because you can't screw it up. You can press a button and it makes a call. You can purr, you can cluck, you can yelp on it. Push-button call, a good way to go. I also use a box call. I only use the box call when on a windy day where I'm really trying to get the sound out there because a box call carries very far. Some of the hardcore turkey hunters will use a mouth call. I have tried them. I can get a sound out of them. But to be honest with you, they make me gag, and I don't see a reason for me since I'm in a blind. Now, if I was turkey hunting just out in the open, yes, maybe a mouth call, which leads me to your next question of, do you need a blind? No, you don't need one. You don't need one. Find yourself a tree, lean up against a tree, hide behind some brush. You wear camouflage. You can hide out in the open without a blind. If you have a blind and you're not going to be running and gunning, meaning you're going to set up on one spot, it's a good option because you can get away with some extra movement and they protect you from the elements. Decoys. Boy, that's an interesting question. Decoys, everybody has their own thought on decoys. I started out the first 2 days of the season using 2 decoys, 2 hen decoys. When I go out tomorrow morning, I'm going to cut back to just 1 hen decoy. I've got her set about 8 yards in front of me because I'm hunting with a recurve bow, so I've got her nice and close. If it gets to be later in the season and I haven't had success, I will probably add a Jake decoy to that mix. Where should I go to hunt? Marty also asked. This is the $64,000 question this year. The powers that be want you to hunt as close to home as possible. But the problem with that is, I don't know where you live in the state, Marty, you didn't say that. ZZ, which is the Southern Michigan private land hunt that usually never sells out. This year they sold 50,000 of those and they sold it out. So your next option is Hunt 234, which is a statewide hunt during the mosquito season, the month of May. However, Hunt 234 does not include Southern Michigan private land. So this year, for the first time that I can ever remember, finding a place to hunt may be a little bit harder than normal. Your next question, can I shoot a hen or does it have to be a male bird? According to the digest, it is a bearded bird, which means a bearded hen would indeed be a legal target if you choose to shoot one. Jakes are also illegal as well as longbeards, but it has to be a bearded bird in the spring. The digest makes no distinction over hen or tom, just that it is a bearded bird. And finally, you say, what are you going to do with that bird if you're lucky enough to get one? Well, most people will use the breast meat from a bird. You can skin the bird out, take the breast meat out. The breasts are wonderful. Nick Grillo was talking about smoking up the legs, the turkey legs, the drumsticks. That seems like a great option as well. Don't be afraid of it. Gut it out. If you're not going to process it right away, skin the bird, take off the meat like you would a chicken, and cook it up any way that you like to cook up poultry. Just keep in mind you might have to cook it a little longer than usual than you would a domestic bird because a turkey, a wild turkey, is a pretty tough bird. So, Marty, I hope that helps you out, and thanks for submitting your question to the Ask Avery segment, and thank you to the folks at Security Credit Union for making the Ask Avery segment possible. securitycu.org. Send me your questions to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com or hit me up on any of the social media outlets. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, hour number 3, we're talking coyote hunting. Yeah, I know, even this time of year, with Josh Mapes of Overdrive Outdoors right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Forward Corporation and T.R. McTaggart, Angler Quest Boats, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on 29 stations across the great state of Michigan. The goal of this show is actually pretty simple. To promote, it's to celebrate the outdoor lifestyle here in the great state of Michigan and occasionally beyond. And what does that mean? It means to promote, to encourage, to educate about hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping primarily. I don't talk too much about what I call the non-consumptive outdoor sports. And what are those? I mean, hiking and sailing and bird watching are all wonderful endeavors. Hey, anything to get you outdoors, right? Anything to get out in Mother Nature and enjoy God's creation, I'm all in favor of. But those types of activities really aren't under a microscope. They're not scrutinized like hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping are. I grew up in this lifestyle. I grew up in West Michigan, northern Kent County, on a farm and in the outdoors. And I feel like that way of life in some parts of our state, in many parts of our state, is in jeopardy. Yes, you get to the northern part of our state, or certainly the UP, it's still there. But the southern part of our state, where the population is, where the people are, where the votes are, I mean, we're outnumbered in this state. There are far more non-hunters and anglers than there are people who hunt and fish. I routinely hear from people who say, Avery, I listen to your show. I don't hunt or fish, but I like the topics that you talk about. That's very rewarding to me. I do appreciate it. So that's why I'm here. Every week, I've been doing this for a long, long time, almost 40 years in the broadcast industry now. I think 25 years doing outdoor radio, something like that, 25, 28, I don't know what it is. So with everything going on in the world, all the squirrely stuff, all the bad stuff, it's nice to be able to sit down and talk about the good stuff, right? Getting outdoors, going hunting or going fishing. It's a nice break from everything else that's out there. So that's what this is all about. I've been doing it for a long time. God willing, I will continue to do it for a long time. And you and I will move on through this and move on into the future together. And I appreciate you being along. You know, there are so many different outdoor recreational opportunities right now. This weekend marks the opener of walleye season in the Lower Peninsula, trout season statewide. Turkey hunting is going full swing. Might be some morels in the southern part of the state. But I'll bet you one thing you don't often think about this time of year, at least I don't, and that's predator hunting, coyote hunting. But for the hardcore folks out there like Josh Mapes, there is no basically closed season for coyote hunting. These guys are out here all the time. Josh is with Overdrive Outdoors, by the way, overdriveoutdoors.com, and with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Josh, welcome back to the show.
Hey, how you doing, Mike?
I'm doing real good. How are you getting through this whole thing? Everybody healthy at your house?
You know what? We are very healthy, and as much as I'd like to be working, I'm taking advantage of this couple weeks to spend time with my kids that, you know, I wouldn't normally get any other way.
Well,
so it's been kind of nice.
Exactly. You got to look for the silver lining, to use a cliche.
Right. I mean, as people who have been working most of our lives, it's kind of nice to take a break every once in a while. There
you go. And I noticed from watching your presence online, you're not taking too much of a break from coyote hunting, though, are you?
Oh no. I mean, I'm pretty much still working full time on them. I still have landowners that are calling me. A lot of dairy farmers right now. I know a couple of them are starting to drop calves, and they're starting to have more and more problems with the coyotes because coyotes right now are starting to drop puppies, and when they start dropping puppies, they start needing more food, and they will go get it however they need to get it.
Can a coyote take a calf?
Yes, I've actually, right down the road from me last year, I had a landowner call me and said, I'm missing a calf, and I don't know where it is, and there was 2 sets of coyote tracks in the fresh snow, and they had drugged that calf out of the barn that it was born in, straight away from its mom, and they killed it out in the field.
Holy cow. I can see wolves doing that. I don't often think of coyotes having that kind of a power.
Oh yeah, we've got some trail cam video footage on our YouTube page, and I think it's on our Facebook page too, of 2 coyotes going after a full-grown mature buck. They just go for the back legs and the neck.
So that's the reason. I mean, that's one of the reasons. Predator control. That's why you guys are out there.
Yes, sir. And we enjoy it. It's something we can do, like you said, 24/7, 365. It's open. So basically, you know, there is no off season. It's something we can always be in the woods or in the fields doing, and that's what I love it so much for.
And I don't, I usually think of predator hunting, coyote hunting, as a wintertime activity, and it is a huge activity in wintertime, but are there more and more guys like you who are doing this year-round?
Oh, there's a ton of guys now. When I started doing this 15, 16 years ago, it was hard to even find another coyote hunter. And now there is, we run a page, Michigan Coyote Hunting Outdoors, and it's like over 15,000 people on it right now. And that's people hunting across the whole state. So there is definitely getting to be more population of hunters. And, there's still the certain ones that like to go out only during the winter months, and they all have valid reasoning. It's usually because the furs are valuable at that point. Right now, during the summer, spring, when they start to lose their winter coat, their fur value goes down. But, they still have to be controlled because they'll repopulate an area pretty fast and pretty heavily if they can, and landowners don't want it.
And we've got them all over the place now.
Everywhere. Every city, every town in Michigan, and probably most other places has coyotes.
And just because somebody isn't seeing them or hearing them doesn't mean they're not there.
Oh, absolutely. I've spent 3 to 4 months in a tree stand every year since I was 12 years old, and I've seen 3 coyotes out of tree stands. My whole life deer hunting.
Wow.
So just because you don't see them doesn't mean it's not there, because I can go out to the same spot and call them in and shoot them,
Yep. And if you see one during the daytime, that's a pretty good indication you got a bunch of them around.
Yeah, and it depends on the time of year. Like right now, like I said, they're having pups and stuff. There are landowners starting to see them more and more frequently because they are looking for more and more food, so they'll move, all over the place at all times of day. But yeah, that's usually when they start calling, saying, hey, they're back.
The way you hunt them, you have, I don't want to say graduated, but you've moved almost entirely to night hunting, haven't you?
Yeah, 99% of what I do is nighttime, but the only reason is because I have 3 kids, and it's easier to go out and not get myself grounded after the kids are sleeping.
I've met your wife. She wouldn't ground you.
No, she wouldn't. She's pretty darn supportive of it. I better watch my P's and Q's when I make my decisions on when to go hunting. That way I can just keep on doing it.
So could you go out during the daytime and hunt coyotes?
Yeah. We still do a little bit of daytime hunting. There's some of us that do more than others. When I go out in daylight, I usually go into like the middle of thick public land, clear cuts or swamp ground, and I'll call them in close enough to shoot them with a shotgun with like a BB load, which is usually 30, 40 yards maximum. But yeah, we call them, if you get into the right spots where they're laying, which assume if you have deer bedding areas or areas that deer yard up in, you're going to have coyotes in the same type of area. So that's kind of what I focus on when I go out in daylight, is where I know there's thick cover to carry them, and then I'll just set up and attempt to get them in real close range.
It's got to be easier during the daytime because you don't need all the specialized scopes and lighting and the infrared stuff you guys are using at night.
It's easier to not carry all the gear, but it's not easier to call them in. It is much easier to call them in the cover of darkness because they are moving all over the place. Nobody can see them any other way.
Yeah, that makes sense. I want to talk more about the gear after the break, but just as a way of leading into this, the setup you've got these days is pretty sweet. It's pretty sophisticated.
I love it. I've showed you a couple videos, but yeah, they're. I use thermal. I use an ATN Thor 4 thermal scope. And anybody that doesn't know thermal, all it is doing essentially is picking up the heat signatures. Anything hot, it shows up. And yeah, I mean, I can see a coyote a block away on a different property and know that I should head over there next. Before, when we started off with lights, it was different.
Can when you're looking at the heat signature, is it obvious right away it's a coyote, say, instead of a deer or a dog or somebody's cow or something like that?
It's not obvious for somebody who is first sitting behind a thermal. When we first started, most of us started with handheld thermal scanners, and we shot with night vision or lights. Night vision and lights give you a better possibility of 100% identifying the animal based on seeing the whole image of the animal. Thermal, since all you're seeing is heat, you really have to learn the body language of the animal, because there's fox, there's house dogs, there's deer, there's cows. And we usually recommend people start off with a scanner first, like a monocular, and they don't put a thermal scope right on their gun, because that's how accidents could happen.
I see what you're saying. All right, hang tight, Josh. We got to take a break here. We're talking with Josh Mapes of Overdrive Outdoors. When we come back, I'll have Josh talk about the different places you can find him online. He mentioned a Facebook page I wasn't aware of. We'll plug that when we come back. But Josh is the man when it comes to predator hunting here in Michigan. And he's got a big following, and he will share some info with us after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM, and you can hear us north of the bridge in Ishpeming, WIAN 1240 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reeder Landscaping. Reeder can take care of all your lawn and property needs because it's your nature and our nurture. Now, realize that right now, Reeder is, the guys can't be working. But when they are allowed to, they are ready to rock. Trust me on this. They are ready to go. And take care of all your lawn, your property needs, your landscaping needs, your sprinkler systems, your backyard retreat. Backyard retreat sounds pretty good now, doesn't it? Well, the folks from Reeder can help you with that. Check them out online at reederlandscaping.com. That's reederlandscaping.com. And again, as soon as they can get back to work, the guys at Reeder will be in their trucks, on the roads, and on your property helping to spruce things up. Right now, we're talking predator hunting with Josh Mapes. Josh, you're still with Overdrive Outdoors, right?
Yes, sir. I'm actually the owner of Overdrive Outdoors.
And
Me and Kevin Rott went in together on that.
Oh, well, Kevin, another coyote killing fool right there, too.
Yes, sir.
And the website for that is overdriveoutdoors.com.
OverdriveOutdoorsMI.com. Our website, we don't really do a lot of stuff on. We just have some stuff for sale on there, but otherwise, most of what we do is Facebook at Overdrive Outdoors and Instagram. Same thing.
And then you said
Overdrive Outdoors.
And you said there's another one though, Michigan Coyote Hunting. What was that?
That's actually just a Michigan coyote hunting group that we all. I mean, there's like 15,000 hunters on that page. It's Michigan Coyote Hunting Outdoors. It's just like a community page.
So, what is the appeal of this? Why has predator hunting blown up in Michigan?
I think a lot of it just has to do with how much fun it is. A lot of people who are getting into coyote hunting have been deer hunting, turkey hunting for years, and they start noticing the problems. When I first got into this, I wasn't into it nearly as hard as I was. And then my little brother was 12 or 13, and he shot his first deer with me. And the next morning we went and found it, and it was completely gone. The coyotes had ate every last bit of it except for the head. And that's pretty much when I said, all right, it's game on for coyotes. And I think a lot of people are doing it for the same reason.
That's when you declared war.
Yes, sir. And I haven't stopped since then.
Well, let's talk more about your nighttime setup. You said it's infrared, or what is it?
The scope I most often use is thermal, which picks up heat signatures. Anything hot.
How far out in the distance is that? Does it work?
Well, it all depends basically on what magnification, what lens size you get. The ones that I use are pretty close to a 50 millimeter lens. Like I said, it's an ATN Thor 4. The model is a 4.5 by 18, and I can see. Oh man, if I'm standing on one road, I can see cars going down a road 4 miles away.
Wow.
So it's all, I can see coyotes at a mile away, a half a mile away. It just takes them a little bit, when they have to get to a certain distance before the image really clears up to the point where you know exactly what you're looking at. But within 800-900 yards, I can tell you what a coyote is compared to a deer or a fox. And it's all because of how they carry themselves.
And what are you shooting them with? What gun?
I shoot a 243. Me and Kevin built a 243 AR-10 last year, And that 243, when you hit them where you need to, they don't go anywhere, which is exactly what I like. I don't like wounding animals or having to chase them down.
Let me ask you a dumb question. What's the difference between an AR-10 and an AR-15?
Oh, boy. I think it's all mostly caliber selection.
Okay.
The certain bigger calibers you can't get in an AR-15, but you can in an AR-10. Honestly, I leave that all to Kevin Raw. He is my gun. He is the gun guru that I talk to all the time. I couldn't answer most of those questions, honestly, because I don't know.
Well, that's fine. I know, and I appreciate that. But you guys have certainly taken, from a gear perspective, you have taken this to the next level. I mean, you guys are high tech. You're into this with both feet.
Yes, sir. When we all started either during daylight or we started with lights, which lights are still a good way to go. It's just that we wanted to be more productive for our landowners. You know, our landowners call us. We take care of problem coyotes for free. We don't charge anybody a penny to do this, but they still want them gone. They don't want them educated. They don't want them wounded. They want them removed. And when we finally started saying, you know, let's go into this, you know, night vision and thermal, we started putting down a whole lot more coyotes, and we have a whole lot more landowners that are happy.
Is it just coyotes or is it fox as well?
Most of what we do is coyotes. You got to remember with fox, they have an open season. It's October 15th or I believe March 1st. Any other time outside of that, you cannot touch a fox unless you get a DNR permit.
Oh, see, I didn't realize that.
Of you getting, yeah. Fox are off limits if they are not in season. You cannot touch them. Even if they are killing your livestock, attacking your chickens, the only thing you can do is get a hold of the DNR to give you a permit to remove them. And the odds of you getting one, from everything I've heard, are pretty low. I've never even attempted it because most of the time during the summer, spring, most people are having problems with coyotes, and they don't really worry about the fox.
Gotcha. So coyote, on the other hand, that's open season year-round.
Yes, sir. Coyotes is open season year-round, 365, 24/7. The only times things change is during, like, firearms deer season, where you have to follow some certain laws depending on what part of the state you're in. I can't quote them all directly, so I just know that down here in the shotgun zone where I am, I don't even bother going out November 15th or November 30 because of the rule change.
Sure. Well, yeah, and you've got the other 50 weeks of the year to go after it.
Exactly. It's no big hurt for me to not go out for 2 weeks.
So you've got the gear, you got the property that you know the dogs are on. Yep. What is your setup? I mean, how important is calling, and what type of calls do you use?
All right, well, the first thing people got to realize is if anybody's ever hunted for big deer or, you know, a smart deer of any kind, they know how well a deer uses their nose. You have to remember that coyotes can smell like, I don't know, some stupid 3, 4, 5 times better than a deer. And they use that as best as they can. So what I'm always doing, I'm trying to make sure if I think I know where the coyotes are, I do not want my wind going anywhere near that direction, because they will smell you as soon as you get out of your truck. They can smell, based on what I've read, up to like 6 different smells at one time, and they could depict every one of them and tell you what it is. So if you have a hunter out there that douses himself in rabbit scent, he can pull both those scents apart and tell that there's danger. And they will do that, and they will start barking, or you'll watch them run the other way. So I always put the wind kind of in my favor. But the biggest point is they have to, in order to get them to the downwind side, which is where most of them are going to try to go, you want them to have to cover an open area that you can get a shot at. Does that make sense?
No, it does. And with that 243, what do you figure your distance is after dark that you can make a shot?
I shot one the other night at 339, I think.
Wow.
So that one, unfortunately, wasn't a recovered one. It went onto some property we weren't allowed to go on to, so we couldn't continue looking for it. But it was like, 330 yards. Most times under 200, they don't go anywhere when I pull the trigger.
Well, and I've seen your video. What is it about that scope that allows you to record the image that you're looking at when you shoot them?
They have built-in, you put a memory card right into that scope, and it's got a built-in recorder right in it.
That is
so you just click a button
cool.
and it starts recording.
That night video is ridiculously cool.
Yeah, I love it. And you can, I'll have to take some videos for you sometime. We watch, when we first started in thermal, it was amazing what is out there in the middle of the night that nobody knows about. You stand in a field, you watch little white golf balls run around the field, and it's all mice. In the middle of the night, you can pick up the mice at 500 yards walking across the field.
And it's got to be like a different world out there.
It is. There's a lot of people that don't understand all the animal life that's out there in the middle of the night. But when you go out with thermal, it's amazing. And we've had, we talk to police officers fairly often that stop us when we're out in the middle of the night. And a lot of them will look through our thermal gear and they're just blown away by it because they didn't know, what it was capable of.
Well, yeah. You guys are prime stops in the middle of the night because you're out there in the middle of nowhere. You got guns. There's nobody else around. Of course, they're going to stop you. But then I bet you do get their attention. They're fascinated by your gear.
Yeah, and we get the curious neighbor who sees a random vehicle stopped in a field that call us in, and we're never doing anything that we can get in trouble for, but they still have to come stop us and talk to us,
Well, hey, it's their property, right? Or their neighbors. They got the right to do that. Sure. That's for sure. Absolutely. Yep. So, Josh, if somebody wants to get started, where do they start? How do we start? We can't jump in at the level you're at. So ease us into this.
Well, the first thing most people can do is if you have a deer rifle, under 269 diameter bullet in Michigan is what's legal at night. So I think like a 6.5 Creedmoor is basically like the top of the line you can go. If you have anything under basically a 270, you can go to PredatorHunterOutdoors.com, another Michigan company, and you can pick yourself up a red light. And that's all we all started with. And you can buy, hand calls. Timber Freak hand calls out of Michigan has a bunch of them available. There's a couple other ones, DL calls. They all sell hand calls. You can essentially get started in this for less than a couple $100. You don't need an electric call. You don't need thermal. You don't need night vision. And I recommend not buying all that until you know if you're going to do this a lot or if it's just something you're going to do, occasionally.
Sure.
But we all started off with whatever rifle we use for deer, or we'd go pick up something for cheap and throw a light on there and a cheaper scope that works good, and you're hunting.
There you go. And maybe you'll get the addiction that hit Josh Mapes.
Yeah, maybe. You better hope not, because it's bad on the wall.
But it's a lot of fun to watch, Josh. I'll tell you that.
I love doing it.
Hey, listen, I appreciate you joining us, and good luck out there in the woods. I'm going to keep an eye out on social media for Overdrive Outdoors and the website overdriveoutdoorsmi.com. But the folks should, in fact, I post them sometimes on my Facebook page, but your nighttime videos are very cool, Josh, and I appreciate you joining us.
Hey, thank you very much, Mike. Have a good day.
You as well. Josh Mapes, him and his partner, Kevin Routh. These guys are just absolute coyote. Man, they're machines. Absolute machines. OverdriveMIOutdoors.com and just OverdriveOutdoorsMI.com and Overdrive Outdoors on Facebook. We'll take a break. A few more things to talk about then. Chef Dave Miner wraps up this week's Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Mount Pleasant on WMMI, AM and FM, 830 AM, 92.3 FM. Our newest affiliate, by the way, WMMI in Mount Pleasant. Two longtime affiliates, WLDN, News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN in Ludington, and WMLQ 97.7 in Manistee. And our flagship station, News Radio 790 WSGW in Saginaw. I say flagship every week, and every week I have no disrespect to any of our affiliates. I appreciate each and every one of them. But I do have a very close relationship with WSGW. I'm in their studios right now, and for this 3 hours, they're actually called the Outdoor Magazine Studio. Charlie Rood with me doing a wonderful job, as always, as he waves to the adoring fans, and we have a multitude of fans in here with us today. No, we don't. We're practicing social distancing. They're all 6 feet away. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by my friends at Wilds Plumbing and Heating. Plumbing, heating, air conditioning, sump pumps, cleaning, ductwork, you name it, anything to keep your house warm in the wintertime, cool in the summertime, dry, keep the mechanics of your house working soundly. The folks at Wilds can help you out. But like many other businesses, the folks at Wilds right now have their business has been hampered. They are doing emergency calls only. The routine stuff is going to have to wait. But again, rest assured, when the restrictions are lifted, the folks from Wilds will be ready to take care of you. Check them out online at wildsplumbingandheating.com. That's wildsplumbingandheating.com. I enjoyed that conversation with Josh Mapes. That guy has coyote hunting dialed in. In fact, during the break here, I was showing Charlie some of the video of his nighttime hunting, and it's very, very impressive. I think we had a very impressive lineup of people this week. Dave Rose talking about fishing opportunities, non-motorized boat fishing opportunities. Trout season opens this weekend. Walleye season in the Lower Peninsula opens this weekend. Then Nick Grillo joins me to talk about his transition from switching from a shotgun hunter over to a crossbow. Mark Romanek, of course, you know that name. Mark Romanek, an absolute icon when it comes to fishing here in Michigan. Amy Trotter of MUCC filled us in on why they filed that suit challenging the governor's restriction on fishing from a motorized boat. And the gist of it is her executive order did not say that. But when the FAQs, the frequently asked questions, came out from the governor's office, motorized boats were included in that. So there was a disconnect somewhere. I haven't been able to find out where that disconnect came from, but it created a lot of confusion, and that's what MUCC is challenging. And, of course, we had Josh Mapes and Wild Game Chef Dave Miner is going to join us here in just a minute. My success in the turkey woods, my experience in the turkey woods so far has been very successful. I haven't taken a bird, haven't taken a shot at a bird, and haven't even seen a longbeard yet. But I've had a couple of very enjoyable days sitting in the blind over a couple of decoys with my recurve in my hands, waiting. And I'm a pretty patient guy, and the opportunity will present itself. Now, whether or not I can make that shot with a recurve, I'm cautiously optimistic. I think I've done most everything I can to get myself ready. I've done a lot of shooting, a lot of practicing. I've got my decoys nice and close, and we'll see what happens. Either way, to me, at this point in my life, it doesn't matter. The experience to me is the experience. I've already taken a turkey with a recurve, so I can say that I've done it. It's something I've done in the past. I cannot say that I've ever caught a fish on a fly rod, though. I'm still working on that. My casting is getting better. Based on some advice from Dave Cronk of Jay's Sporting Goods, when I make my back cast now, I turn over my shoulder and I look at the line to see where it is, and that helps me time my front cast, my forward cast. So I'm having a lot more luck there. Just haven't had any luck with the bluegills yet. I'm thinking they should be up on the beds and in the shallows, and I'm not seeing them yet. I'm a little bit concerned. Is it the water temperature because we've had a cold spring? But I should be seeing fish in there. Normally that pond is just full of bluegills. You throw anything on the surface and they come up and hit it. We'll see. Hey, as I am in the studio right now, it's Earth Day. Earth Day. That day of the year when everybody comes out and says how much they love Mother Earth and how much they support our natural resources and wildlife. I think Earth Day is a joke. I think if we truly cared about the environment and Mother Nature, it would be a year-round effort, like it is for hunters and anglers and shooters and trappers. We are the original stewards of the earth, the original stewards of the resource. For us, there is no Earth Day. It is an Earth Year. It is something we get involved in year-round. And I realized I forgot to follow up on something I brought earlier in the show, and now I'm just not going to have time. Doggone it. It's about seeing a logging operation and an excavation operation next to an active eagle's nest. It really, really bothers me. And I'm trying to come up with why that would happen. I think they were cleaning out a county drain. Is an eagle's nest important enough not to do that work, or do we have so many eagles around now that we should hold off on that? And I'm conflicted on this because I see both sides. Used to be in Michigan, if you saw an active eagle's nest, it was a big, big deal. These days, maybe not so much. It still is to me. But at a time when people are having a hard time finding jobs and finding works, maybe this was the window of opportunity to get that project done. I don't know. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up with Wild Game Chef Dave Miner. And I think he has a turkey recipe for us. In fact, if I was a betting man, I would bet money he's going to have a turkey recipe for us coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery, and I am so glad to have you along with us. Also glad to have Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dave Miner along with us. Dave is a good friend of mine for many years, and he helps us wrap up. Well, he used to help us wrap up each week's television show, Outdoor Magazine Television. These days, Outdoor Magazine Radio only. And on Dave, I'm always glad to have you join us.
Well, I'm always glad to be here. For sure. It's just been a great run, Mike.
It has. Have you been out in the turkey woods at all, Dave?
Oh, I have, yeah. Not as much as I would like to. We've just had some pretty crappy weather.
Oh, the wind.
Hard to keep the decoys setting up right.
Yeah.
So I've been kind of picking and choosing. I called in a smaller tom with about a 4-inch beard, and then I had another bigger one, a shooter definitely, hung up, and then I've seen others in the woods just strolling through, minding their turkey business. But
is your
I will connect soon.
I'm sure you will. Does your hunt go right on through the end of May?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes, I do. How about
nice.
You do too, right?
Yeah, mine goes right on through the end of May. I will, I'm trying to shoot one with a recurve, so I'm limiting myself here a little bit. But since I can't get the Angler Quest out anyway, I got nothing to do but go turkey hunting. So I'm gonna stick it out and see what happens.
Well, me too. As soon as I heard perch are in different cuts, too, so I'm going to try that one of these days.
Oh, good. Well,
anyways,
listen, if we're lucky enough to get a bird, yes, please, because I had a guy asking earlier in the show, he said, well, what do I do with a bird if I get one? I thought, well, Dave Miner can help, so help us out, my friend.
Gotta
eat it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I like to actually use the breast, cut it into steaks. And so, you've heard of the ever-popular Mike Avery hunter sticks with black pepper and elk. We've got the Mike Avery turkey breast with black pepper, just according to Mike's recipe.
You can never have too much cracked black pepper in a recipe.
This is an overload of pepper. Anyway, what I like to do is I cut the breast across. Make sure you check it for shot and any feathers driven in case you get a stray one, or you don't have to worry about it if you're using a crossbow or a recurve or some sort of piece of metal or aluminum or wood that you're throwing at them. So you need about 8 to 10 ounces of steak per person. I like to cut it across the grain, put it between plastic wrap, whether it's a heavy-duty bread wrap or, bread bag. Make sure if you're going to use a bread bag, you put the side that's got the printing on it on the outside, and you don't want to pound any of that ink or paint into the meat. So just open that up and do it that way. Use a meat mallet, or you could actually take an old Coca-Cola or a Pepsi bottle that's heavy glass, and you can use that to pound with too. You need a jar of beef gravy, or you could actually use turkey gravy too. You need a medium onion diced up. I like this recipe with morels, but regular mushrooms work good. Or you can go to the grocery store and you can buy this wild rice or wild mushroom blend. It's just great. It's got numerous kinds in it. You want to soak them overnight in warm water, put them in the refrigerator. You need a couple ounces of bourbon, a couple ounces of heavy cream, 3 to 4 cloves of garlic. I like a lot of garlic, and lots of fresh crushed black pepper. You can take a frying pan on a wooden board. You don't want to use a plastic board because it's too slippery. Lay the peppercorns out, push the pan across and break them up, or you can put it in a blender with little short spurts, bloop, 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 and that'll kind of crush it up too. You don't want it too fine. So some olive oil and no flour. So what you're going to do, after you pound out the breast steaks, you're going to push the black pepper into the meat and put a little bourbon on it and let it set for 5 to 10 minutes to kind of permeate that. In a real hot pan, you want to put the steaks in first and then the oil so you don't splatter it all over you, because it has a tendency to splatter like crazy. Just brown them off a little bit, set that pepper, put them in a casserole, put it on the side. Take the onions, the mushrooms, the garlic, saute that up a little bit. You can put the beef or turkey gravy in that pan and then add the bourbon, and you don't have to worry about it flaming up. Put the heavy cream in it, bring it up to a boil, taste it. Make sure it's to your flavor. Pour that all over the steaks that you're going to put in the casserole, 350-degree oven, and you're going to cook it till it's tender. You can take a fork and try to pull it apart after, say, 15 to 20 minutes. On an old Tom, a big old long beard, you might have to go as much as 35, 40 minutes until it's nice and tender. You don't want to not cook this long enough, because people are going to say, oh, it's tough. It's nothing I would really care for. If you cook it long enough and slow enough, like that 350 degrees, you're going to get a wonderful, just super tasting piece of meat. I'm telling you, wild turkey to me is one of the finest critters that's in the woods, along with pheasant too. I like it.
And
I made this with elk, pheasant, you name it.
It's lunchtime, and you got my mouth watering, so I appreciate that, Dave.
Bring me the turkey breast, and I'll cook it for you, Michael. And I'll stay 6 feet apart.
Ah, that sounds good, Dave. Always a pleasure. Good luck in the woods. I know you're going to get one, and we'll talk again next week.
You too, Michael. Try hard. Get out there. You deserve
absolutely.
it.
Well, we all deserve it, right? We all deserve. That's a good point, Dave. We all deserve to get out in the outdoors. Thank you, Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dave Miner, for joining us on this edition of the Outdoor Magazine Show. He closes us out with great advice. We all deserve it. Trout season this weekend, walleye in the lower, turkey season's open, morels are popping in the southern part of the state, coyote hunting going on for some hardcore folks as well. Lots of reasons to get outdoors, and I can't think of one reason not to. Join me during the week on the Mike Avery Outdoors website, Facebook page, and send me an email to mike@MikeAveryOutdoors if you have a question you want to ask. Until then, and we'll talk to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.